All right, we are live. A little rudimentary setup this evening. Thanks for tuning in, everyone online. We'll wait till we get some people joining us in a second, but we are going to have some special guests today as I get everything all set up. We have Joe Scully here with us, and Colby SFPV will also be hanging out with us up top
Here.
left. You're going to enjoy us watching all of our. Oh, there it is. Okay. Just quickly key him out a little bit there. So we are here. Actually, I'll let Marty roll us in. Why are we here?
Well, we are here because history is being made today. The Drone Racing League Simulator Tryouts Final is happening in just about 30 minutes, and they've partnered with FanDuel for daily fantasy play. It's a free daily fantasy game on FanDuel right now for the DRL Simulator Tryouts Final. There are 12 pilots. You can go to FanDuel right now, and you can pick from among those 12 pilots, you can pick 4 of them. No, 3 of them. Sorry, 3 of them.
He messed me up there for a second. I'm like, wait, what? I got to start over?
I'll get it straight. You can pick 3 of them, and they all have salaries attached to them, so you got to stay under your salary cap. Well, we know a lot about these pilots. We've, especially with Joe and Colby here, these guys know these pilots. They've seen a lot of them. And then with Joel, my partner at Hydra FPV, has been crunching as much data as he can get his hands on about each of these guys. So we are going to give you our opinion as we build up to the start of the finals tonight for the DRL Sim Tryouts, what we think about each of these pilots, who's undervalued, who's overvalued, so that you can make your smartest picks possible. Because we realize a lot of people have never seen drone racing before, and they spotted it on the front page of FanDuel, and they're wondering, who are these guys? So we're going to help you out. So with that, is everybody ready to get started? First of all, as Joel mentioned, we have Joe Scully, the world's preeminent drone racing announcer. If you've seen drone racing, I hope you've seen it with Joe Scully announcing, and you get to hear him tonight. And then Colby Curtola, SFPV is his pilot name, an amazing pilot, an outstanding pilot, and the preeminent simulator race director. He's been putting on simulator races 1 or 2 a day lately, burning the candle at every end, and we're happy to have him here. These guys know about drone racing. They know about simulator drone racing, and so I can't wait to hear what these guys have to say. We're going to go pilot by pilot. So are we ready, everybody?
I think so.
Okay.
There's Ferry here as well.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, and there's Ferry.
Sorry, I had to switch computers because the other computer I was on didn't have a mic. This mic isn't real for this. It's fun, though.
It's not real.
I can't see your video for some reason.
All right,
Make
one
sure
of the
you
top
wipe it down.
one of the top simulator drone racing pilots, period. Ferry is here as well. Welcome, Ferry. All right, let's hear about these 12 pilots who are racing tonight in the DRL Sim Tryouts. Let's start with a young man we know pretty well. We've seen him race. He's extremely fast. Rab FPV. Joel, anything to start with about Rab and how he's performed thus far in the simulator tryouts?
Yeah,
DRL.
so Rab started on week 1. He actually had some times and competed in week 1 and got into the quarterfinals and into the semifinals in week 1. But then after not doing well there, he took a break for a while. He did show up again in week 11 and lost to Sky FPV for that final spot. And then won it in week 12. Now, it is noting on the format of DRL and how they do it, once you've won a week, you don't get to continue competing. So as the top pilots kind of get whittled down, it opens up the room for kind of the underdogs to finally get up to the first place position. So he took a break for about 10 weeks there, 9-10 weeks, and came back late and ended up winning the last week to get in. So Rab is primarily a tiny whoop pilot, arguably one of the fastest tiny whoop pilots in the nation, possibly the world. We haven't seen some of the matchups we want to see quite yet, but definitely a fierce competitor when it comes to sim. Colby can talk about that with his VRL experience with Rab.
Yeah, for sure. I know Rab was kind of a last-minute addition to the DRL tryouts, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of guys waiting to be that 12th pilot selected for the tryouts that were pretty terrified to find out that Rab was showing up on that final tryout day. He's a very notorious pilot on Velocitron and Velocitron Racing League. He's won multiple titles on that simulator. As you said, he's a crazy whoop pilot, but he's just as insane in the sim on the 5-inch quads. Not known for his real life flying just yet, but he's going to be up on the radar for 2020 racing season if we have one, hopefully.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind that Rab is the lowest priced salaried pilot here in FanDuel today, but he's obviously been extremely fast.
Yeah, what is that? I would call him a sleeper for sure. If he's the lowest salary.
Is there an easy way to see the full list if I jump somewhere?
Yeah, you go to a website called FanDuel.com and you can register for free. You can actually connect with your Facebook, 2 clicks. Normally, there's lots of sports going on worldwide, 24/7, and you can game along for real money on FanDuel.com. Obviously, there's like no sports going on, so they're putting drone racing front page, and to get everyone interested in into the gaming on FanDuel.com, it's absolutely free tonight. It's all for points and prizes, but you're not going to be putting any of your own money on the line, but you could be redeeming and earning some money if you have the right selections. And, you know, as Colby Curtola just said there, Rab is a sleeper. And so when you pick your selections here, there's 12 to choose from. You pick 3. They have salaries, so you can't have a salary cap. A lot of people that already have fantasy leagues on FanDuel, football, hockey, and so forth, they know how a fantasy league works. Others that don't is they give you the limit, and you can't pick the top 3 guys because that would put you over the salary limit. And so when I was gaming around, I'm really liking a couple of the pilots in the top 2-3 positions, and I had Rab in there because I'm like lowest money. And the more you think about it, like Colby said, this is truly one of the ones that you should select as your sleeper pilot. He should be in your top 3. He's, like I said, a Tiny Whoop champion. He's the 2017 Tiny Whoop Invitational champion. Now, for those that are just joining us here tonight, we're going to be talking about 5-inch quads, blah, blah, blah. 5-inch quads are your regular racing drones that you would see on television with DRL. Tiny Whoops are little micro ones that go in your hand. You can get them at Horizon Hobby, Get FPV. It's $110 for a little drone, and $500 plus for a larger size race drone. So these little drones, even though they look like toys, they fly almost like the same thing. They're safer. You can fly them more. You can fly them inside of your house and go through what every drone racer and freestyler like to go for, and that's gaps. Hit those holes, hit those gaps. And when it comes to Rab, the 2017 Tiny Whoop Invitational champion, he's a second ever crowned champion. And if you are a DRL fan, top qualifier at that event was FPV Provo, one of the first DRL pilots, the guy with a bigger beard than my lockdown beard going on. He's had the big beard. Everyone thought Provo was going to win, and Rab came out of nowhere racing that little drone. And, since then, a lot of time on the sim, a lot of time flying that little drone in his house. And as we said, a sleeper, and, not only to be one of your top 3 picks to help you with your fantasy league or your fantasy team, but he's a guy who could win it.
Yeah, I just to add a little context for Rab, he's one of those pilots where if Rab focuses on a track and focuses on a format, like we've seen him do this with Tiny Whoops, but he can do it for any format. If he goes all in, it's scary. So, and he's been on fire lately. I just wanted to add a little context. So I'm on Rab's team on the Velocitron Racing League, and in the chat with him, somebody was asking, "Oh, how's the leaderboard smash going?" And the last thing he wrote in the chat was, "For now, I'm focusing on DRL." So he's gonna be scary. He's gonna climb.
So let me add some numbers to back up some of these claims. So what I've done is I've actually taken all of the Laptime data from DRL over the last 12 weeks and crunched them into a simulator for myself, and did some normalization from week to week to kind of standardize all the lap times so that we can do some comparisons. And what I'm really looking for when I look at these times is consistency. I'm gonna have an overall time based upon how I think they'll finish, who's fastest, who's slowest, but usually that's just an average. What I'm interested mostly is how widely does their timing data vary? Do they crash out sometimes? Where does it fall? And Rab is 4th when it comes to consistency. He is up at the top with how consistent he is on week over week over week from the data that we have. And that is, I think that is very true for a lot of the things that I've seen him in. His consistency is there, whether or not he's the fastest pilot on the day. He's absolutely one of the more consistent.
Yeah.
So as the biggest bargain on the board, and we got to get onto these other pilots, but as the biggest bargain on the board, Rab is definitely interesting, definitely fast. We've been hearing from all these guys, especially Ferry, saying he's been focusing on it. That's extremely interesting. Is it time to move on to the next guy? The next?
No, I mean, there's one more thing that we got to say. I mean, for all these FanDuel fans, got to tell you, Rab is from Virginia State. So those representing or get behind the Old Dominion State, Rab, I mean, we've sold this guy a bunch. Like you said, Marty, time to move on. But Rab FPV, definitely a good selection here tonight.
All right. Yes. A native of Virginia. Now we move on to Sky. Now, I don't know a lot about Sky, but who wants to get started on the $29 pilot? Second least expensive. Where's Sky fit in all this?
I got some feedback. I got some insight on Sky.
Okay.
Sky FPV, actually a very interesting pilot. He's been flying for a long time. We saw him at Nationals 2019 in Florida, multi-GP Nationals. He actually loves drone racing so much that he made his own drone racing simulator.
Wow.
He's been working on it for about a year now. Just released it, and so we know he knows drone simulators. He actually built his own. And I've been seeing him putting in the time on the DRL sims. So another interesting bet. I would still put Rab ahead of him. I can't really give too many insights on how he's doing on the DRL tryouts per se, but I know that he is very a sim heavy pilot.
Joel, what have we seen in the DRL data so far?
Yeah, Sky is pretty much middle of the pack when it comes there. Consistently, just looking at his running some new data coming in 41, 28. Yeah, I mean,
Do we have a hometown on him?
Yeah, he's from Denver,
Yeah, he's from
Colorado,
Denver.
up in the
Okay.
Rockies.
Good drone racing region.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you get to the west around them Rockies, you're going to see on the DRL Sim Tryouts 2020 another pilot from that region, Jet, two-time DRL World Champion from Colorado originally. I'm spending a lot of time there, even though now he's hanging his goggles down in California. But yeah, Sky from the Colorado Sky. With that background, building a sim. Also, as Colby said, he was a champs in 2019. He was also at the and this most recent champs. He was inside the top 20 when it was all said and done, 18th overall. But he was also at the 2018 Multi GP Championships, which was February 2019. Which I tell you that story to tell you this one. He was competing in the 2019 DRL Swatch tryouts in Las Vegas and made it pretty far as well. So one of the other keywords that I would hit on here, if you're putting him in your top three, and I don't want to have any spoiler alerts, Sky is in my top three for my fantasy team here. Consistent. You heard Joel. He hasn't even rambled the number. He says, well, you look at the numbers, consistent. That's really all you need to know. If you're betting on a sim pilot, that's a guy who built a sim, flies drone racers, qualifies to champs with real drones, and has been at the tryouts before. Sky is a great pick.
Wow. Undervalued as well here. Joel, any stats for anything before we move on?
Well, I mean, he is consistent, but sometimes the consistency isn't enough. Out of my simulation, I have him placing second the most times. So he is most likely to place last out of my simulated results here. So to give you an insight into how I do my simulation, I base it around Monte Carlo simulations, which is used in horse racing, and so it used basically I run about 50,000 simulations of the guys running next to each other using normal distributions and curves and different things. It's not perfect. That there's a lot of randomness in drone racing for sure, but it's something to start with when you start working with some of these data sets that are this huge.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I feel like this, like when you start getting into consistency versus speed and some of this statistical differences, I think this is where I think the format can really start to play into which pilots can climb and dominate. There's formats that really, if you're consistent and just keep racking up points, you can climb pretty far and get close to the end. And then there's formats where if you're not in those top couple spots, the consistency doesn't help you so much. But at the end of the day, I think with this lineup, I mean, these are some insane pilots. We're going to see that the top is going to be the people who have both. They're going to be consistent, and they're going to have those insane lines.
And who can handle the pressure when money's on the line. And this is no small paycheck. I mean, this is a contract worth 75 grand. So this is not something trivial for these pilots. This is probably the largest purse that they have been flying for to date. So we'll see what happens mentally.
Good points. And yeah, if you're new to drone racing, if you just came in because you found this on the front page of FanDuel, they call this the only player to pilot competition in the world. You could be a player of the simulator and you can earn a real life contract to fly real life drones in the Drone Racing League. So the pressure is definitely on. Let's move on to the next pilot on the list, A Drone, priced at $30. You have $100 to pick 3 pilots. A Drone is at $30. What do we know about A Drone?
Well, you say player and you said $30. I was ready to put my hand up and say, yep. Are we auctioning this guy off? He is a player.
31.
And I mean, I'm not a judge of looks, and it's not about looks, me too, 2020. But, this is a good looking guy from the volunteer state of Tennessee, A Drone. He's been to champs a number of times. Part of Team White Goat. Everyone knows Team White Goat from the greater Tennessee area. He didn't go to the 2019 multi-GP champs, but he did go to that 2018 championship, which was also with the DRL tryouts that year. Did well in both. 2019 finished or qualified just inside of the top 20, top 75 in the world standings, multi-GP drone racing on the global qualifier leaderboard. To give you a perspective, that's out of over 1,200 pilots that flew in real life. He's a consistent pilot that I'm sure Colby Curtola is going to talk about, that we see on the Velocidrone Racing League, where we do this almost every single night here during lockdown 2020, coronavirus gates. We're racing through drone gates in coronavirus gate. A Drone is a staple, and another pilot's going to be all about consistency and good looking as well. I gotta say, gotta love that long hair. Little bit jealous, little bit.
We're going out of time, so I do have him placing in the bottom 3 most of the time. So I would be a little careful with putting him up there as well. So there's
right.
Consistency numbers. A little lower on the consistency. Yep.
I feel like there's a factor that comes in with this sometimes, which is some pilots can really, like, if they have a long time to learn a track, they can really go deep on that track, and then by the time it comes to competition, they're like up there with the top pilots. And then some pilots, like we see this with Evan Turner, he flies 2 packs and then he's as fast as the fastest pilots. And so I'm actually not totally up to speed on how much time they've had to grind this, but I feel like that could come in. It's something I've seen come into play with A Drone.
For sure.
Interesting. All right, by my clock, there's 20 minutes, about 20 minutes before picks need to be finalized here. So let's move on to the next pilot, Halo Walker 03. Halo Walker 03 looks to be a younger guy, priced at $31. What do we know about him?
I know he's a German pilot, so the time zone, we'll see how he's going to adjust to that. Maybe he's been adapting to it this week. It's a pretty serious prize at the end of the tunnel for these guys. So I'm sure he's probably been prepping himself by staying up late, kind of getting on the East Coast time schedule, because it's going to be pretty early in the morning, maybe 4 a.m., 5 a.m. by the time it's coming.
Right.
That's something to keep an eye on. I think most of the other guys are all in the U.S. except for Poelos, who's in Poland.
Okay.
I thought it was Puerto Rican. I thought Polos was Puerto Rico.
No.
But somebody here is from Puerto Rico. I forget which one.
AJ, I believe AJ FPV.
Is AJ?
Yep.
Okay. Any simulations you running the numbers on Halo Walker, Joel?
It's tough. I do have a lot of data on him, but he's inconsistent. He has a lot of times to bounce up and down, a couple total DNFs consistently. If I remember watching the data, more than, I think it was pretty much once a week, he would have just a complete crash out, which can be a deal breaker when it comes to these sims, because you get 10 points for first and 0 for last. And so if you end up with a goose egg on one of those heats, that can quickly drop you down to at least 3rd place, if not more. So I'm a little scared to put anything on Halo Walker at this point. just because of that freakiness.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
the
so
one thing he is one of the youngest pilots there, right? So you got to remember that when it comes to drone racing, there's really no old guys in the game that are competitive anymore. It's all about the youngest. So you're gonna bet, he would be a pretty good selection to go on the youth. Master is going to get beaten by Grasshopper, and maybe it's 50-50 if you're not first, you're last. And I've watched Halo Walker 03 during this series, and I've seen him, like as Joel said, DNS, and I also saw him win a few heats. So, he's a young gun, and
Mr.
not
Fennel.
something to step away with at 31.
All right, this is not going to be easy. Let's move on as we're looking at the clock. Next one up at $32. Again, this is on the front page of FanDuel.com. You can play along with the DRL sim tryouts. We just talked about Halo Walker 03. Next up at $32, Dolma FPV. Dolma FPV, that name's a little familiar. Has he been involved in your races, Colby?
Dolma FPV has not been doing too much sim racing on the velocity drone side. He took a little bit of a hiatus from drone racing in general for about 6 months in 2019. Made his comeback later on in the year in 2019 at the West Coast Throwdown and at the Cali Clash, where he got podiums there. So I think he's getting back into his groove. And Dolma is a very scary pilot when he wants it. If he wants something, he'll go get it. So I think he's a good value there, right about in the middle. I would put him probably up in the top 4 or 5 here, realistically.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say the upper middle. But when he's another pilot. When he wants something, he goes after it. And I don't have enough context to know how hard he's been sort of training and going after this. We've heard of some pilots
Yeah,
just
he's kind of
spending
a
all their time on the sim leading
kind
up
of
to
a
this
wild
event.
card.
Could
I,
be.
I see a lot of the guys like Chief, Amari, all those top guys. I see them in the Discord hanging out, racing, practicing. I haven't seen
They're just
Dolma too
practicing all the
much.
time.
Yeah, so we don't really know where he's been.
So
He could be grinding and kind of
yeah,
trying to be a sleeper.
he could have kind of like gotten into this because he did a few qualifiers and he's fast, so he can get into the
Yeah.
finals, or he could be like really going for it. It's hard to
Right.
say.
Yeah, he could just have the natural ability to get him to the finals, but we don't
Yeah.
know if he's putting in the grind that these other guys are.
Well, I mean, the other thing, I think he's going to be hungry, and it is a question: how much has he been flying to get ready here for tonight? He's a good selection to be on your team, middle of the road at $32. Veteran pilot, finished top 15 at the end of the most previous season in multi GP. We've seen him pop in and out of those sim races. You also got to remember that up until the start of this 2020 season with DRL, there was an age restriction for pilots. You had to be 18 years or older, and so anytime DRL came up, he was a TQ at in the 2018 series at the Southwest Championship, which got him closer to be on DRL, but he wasn't of age, so couldn't earn the prize, and it was kind of like, so it's kind of been that goal that he's been eligible for, except on the age front. So tonight is his chance to run at redemption. Win tonight, get that DRL contract that he probably could have won in 2018, and now he has a chance to run at it 2 years later. And another young pilot, fast pilot, champion pilot. Definitely a top 5, as someone said earlier.
Yeah, my data's putting him top 3 pretty consistently. He's that fast.
Interesting. Okay. We looks like we're having a little bit of an issue with our Twitch stream, although we are on YouTube. I guess if you're watching on Twitch, you can't hear me say that, but
And on Facebook.
If we can try to fix our Twitch stream.
I'll toggle it on and off here again. We'll see what happens.
Okay, as we keep going here. So Dolma FPV getting some higher marks, both from the pilots who know him and the data. And another youngster. Definitely the sport belongs to the young. Let's move on now to Manny himself, priced right there at $33, right middle of the road in terms of the salary. Joel, you saw some interesting things happening with Manny himself with your...
Honestly, if I had to pick one winner out of it, I think I might pick Manny. I actually think, judging from looking at the times and looking at his progress for the whole thing, I think Manny could win the whole thing. His times are ridiculous. Like, he's consistent. He's been at the top 1-2 spots pretty much the whole time. The data's there. I would be concerned. If I was Amari, I'd be looking over my shoulder at Manny right now, since I know Amari is at the top of the board. But
So something I'm wondering, when you're looking at the data, are you looking at live races, practices? Like, what do you have? What exactly do you have
so I
access to?
pull out all of the lap times from the live streams. So I basically went through and scrubbed all of the lap time data from all 12 weeks, and then put them into a big giant spreadsheet, and then normalize week 1 versus week 2 versus week 3, so that they are essentially all the same duration of a course. And then I generate Monte Carlo sims around that.
And do we know if the format tonight is the same as those formats? Like, they've had the track has had
good
the same
question.
amount of time in advance, and I'm just curious. I don't know how much it would affect things, but
It could. I mean, you guys give me your insights on Manny. Tell me I'm wrong. I love that's what I love about it.
There's too many good pilots above him on the list for me to put him on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
He's a
interesting.
good player to have on your lineup at that value at 33, but I would not put him on the top of my list.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's pretty new to the game too. Looking at the multi GP data that I have in my discretion here, he did go to a qualifier in 2019. He finished 659th on the list. And that's out of about 1,200 pilots racing real drones. I get it. You know, there's that connection from player to pilot that Marty had touched on. Also, look at his pilot number, which is just in the low 25,000s, which tells me he joined in about 2019. There's 30,000 plus registered pilots. So this is a new guy, even though he's been doing well in some races. I just don't know if he's seasoned enough. Like to see him do well tonight. You got to remember, this is an opportunity for all 12 of these pilots to go from zero to hero. Who cares if someone had heard of you before? It's what you do tonight. And I mean, that's kind of the story on Manny himself. Love to see some big things out of him. And tonight could be his night.
I mean, he did
All
beat
right.
Dolma to the punch in getting in. He cleaned up on Dolma in week 6. So
Yeah, but
Okay.
I think Dolma. I don't think Dolma's putting in the time that these guys are. I think he might be just riding that skill. I know Manny's been putting in the time, showing up at every race. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough call.
Yeah.
We'll see how much practice matters. There is another pilot priced at $33. So again, in the middle of the range, I believe another pilot from Germany, if I'm not mistaken, Star 2346. Is he from Germany?
The data that I have says he's from Germany. Yeah.
Okay.
Thomas Kund from Aland NRW, which is in Germany. Had to Google that.
All right. Presumably playing from home. We don't know where he's playing from, but what do we know about Star?
Have you come across him, Colby, in
I
tryouts?
know. I this guy is I don't know anything about this guy, to be honest.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Like and I feel like Velocidrone recently, am I allowed to say that here? Has recently done this thing where we've like merged the streams between Europe and America. So we've had like a pool of European pilots and a pool of American pilots, and you start to really get a feel for the stack rank. And then when you merge those pools, you get these sort of like offsets. So for me, this is one that I'd be curious to see how he stacks with this merged pool of pilots.
and drag in a couple finishing orders there for you. So top left, if you guys are watching on the stream, you can see that Amari finished first in week 1. Orange Stuff second, Paulos third, Manny fourth, Chief 5th, and then week 2 was at the bottom. Chief, Orange Stuff, AJ, which we'll talk about. Sky down there in the 6th spot. Week 3 was Paulos, then Manny himself re-enters the scene up at 2nd place, ahead of Orange Stuff and AJ and Star again. So those are the first 3 weeks where Manny really pushed himself, and Star started to make a scene. I'm trying to figure out where Star won it.
So the thing that jumps out to me about these races, not knowing which track was which, but I get the sense. So the minute 17, like that's a pretty long race, and so I get the feeling that Star has got good consistency. I don't know what the data says, but the shorter races, not seeing him as high, my guess would be that he might not have the edge on some of the lines and speed that some of the other pilots have, but it's just a guess.
Yeah, week
That's
7
interesting.
finals was all over the place. You can, if you look at this, he only took first place 2 times in the finals out of the 5, and they had a split. Halo Walker took it twice, and SK Dare, who didn't even make the finals, but Adrone and Dolma were in there, placed 3rd and 5th. So Star is up there, definitely on those longer courses.
Yeah. And
All
this
right,
is where like the design of the track and the link can really
Yep.
make a difference.
we have not seen the track. We're going to see it here. I think the show is starting soon. I have a thought for the last pilot. So we've gone up through the $33 price tags. We've spent some time on the lower price pilots. Now we know all these higher price pilots are supposed to do well. I'm going to rattle them off: Orange Stuff, AJ FPV, Chief, Paulos FPV, and Amari, the top priced pilot, all the way up at $36. Can we just comment on that group and say who definitely belongs, in your guys' opinion, in somebody's lineup, even though they cost a little bit more, and who might be overvalued?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I go straight to like Orange Stuff. I mean, Amari's kind of as the top kind of seed is kind of an obvious one, but then I also go straight to Orange Stuff and Chief just because I know Orange Stuff is a machine and Chief has been putting in the hours. So that's my
Yeah, I mean, one strategy might be to go pick 3 guys right in the middle there to have better odds. You could go Orange Stuff at 34, Star at 33, and Manny at 33. And that would put you right at 100. For me, I got to go with my boy Chief. Out of those 5, I think Chief's got the best shot at winning this whole thing. I've been following his story. He's been on the sim. He put 30 hours, maybe 40 hours by now, on the track that they released for this week. He's taking ibuprofen pills at like 2 a.m. to keep grinding another 2 hours, going to bed at like 7 a.m. You know, I'm online late in the West Coast, and he's up till like 7 a.m. I'm hearing birds chirping in my headphones because he's just on the sim.
There's another thing about Chief that I think is important to think about, which is I think he flies great under pressure. Some people fall apart under pressure. Some people are like, okay, but I
He
think the
lives for
pressure,
it.
like the pressure is like behind his quad, making him pass people. He literally like lights up when it's like close and he's got to do it. It's do or die. He'll
I
All
feel
right.
like talking about pressure, Pavelos, I don't know if he's the best to handle the pressure out of these top 3 on the list there.
Have they
that's
shown
what
off
we're
on
about.
the stream, Marty, the pairings, the groupings yet? You seen that?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm going to look and see.
Because if we can find that out quickly, then that will indicate kind of who you want to be your 1, 2, 3. Ideally, you don't pick your 1 and 2 to be in the same group, but you put them in separate groups,
Yeah,
right?
the seed is gonna make a difference if it's a ladder for sure.
Yep, that's right.
Because how they climb and battle each other is gonna make a big difference.
I do have some crazy insights on Amari. In terms of preparation for this tournament, he has installed a backup generator at his house in case his power goes out during
Computer.
the event. He's got a backup internet connection in case his internet goes out.
That's Amari, you said?
Backup
Amari.
gaming PC too, I think,
I'm
right?
sure he has a backup computer ready to go.
He's got
backups. He's a prepper.
everything.
Yeah, he's prepping for this tournament.
Well, let's just, be straight, call a spade a spade. He lives in Iowa, so he and his entire neighborhood all have backup generators, backup hotspots. Amari is a guy who wins it, who wants this championship. He's done really well last couple of years. Of course, 2018, he was the North Central Regional Champion with multi GP. Finished like top 10 at champs. 2019, and in 2018, that was the year that DRL announced that the multi GP champion would be a DRL champion. That was announced like the day before Amari started qualifying at his regional final, and you could see he was going for it. DRL contract. Long story short, didn't happen in 2018. Tried again in 2019, and another pilot got it at the end of the series, but another top 10 finish for Amari. He's the top pick, and I scrolled through, and I don't understand the leaderboards and stuff, and I noticed every single week Amari's number 1, and they tell me that's because he qualified number 1, and then there are brackets afterwards. He got his invite the first week, but he was still there flying consistently, the fastest in the sim overall combined time. It's Amari. Talking about those qualifying times of the 6 weeks of competition, Amari won 5 of the 6. So you have to put Amari number 1. I mean, you're gambling. You might as well throw out your free money. You might as well start mailing me your money if you don't have Amari in your top three. SFPV was talking down Puellos. I'm going to go the other way. I mean, I'm going to talk some numbers for you right now. I'm going to talk some numbers for you right now. Okay. There's 195 countries in the world. 151 of them have coronavirus. There's 9 Americans competing tonight, 1 from Poland, 2 from Germany. What does that tell you? The Germans are rocking it here tonight. They've rocked it all season long. You got to have a German in your top 3. You got to have, or at least someone from Europe. So let's go to Europe to the west. Let's go to Poland. Puellos has got to be in there. He's been a European champion of almost anything over there. The EU series, when he shows up, he kills it. He's fast. I've seen him race in real life at the International Drone Sports Championships over in Korea. He's got to be in the top 3 as well. So
I got him in my top 3. I'm just not picking him to win. I got Chief, Puellos, and Rab. That's my top 3. That's my lineup.
Interesting.
Okay.
So now Amari, you got Puellos in there. So let's go. We've only got a couple more minutes. Can everybody run down that? We just heard Colby.
Yeah,
SFPV.
I got Amari, Chief, and Rab. I think Rab is your sleeper and is going to pick up some points.
I got Amari, Chief, and Rab too. I wanted to get a Puellos or Orange Stuff in there, but I worry about the pressure and the.
Amari's got a lot of pressure on. He's the favorite to win, and we've seen that happen before at these DRL tournaments.
Well, they're giving out a DRL contract tonight worth $75,000. FanDuel is probably going to give me a contract tonight for having the best line on every single pilot. I have all 3. Of course, Sky is one of my top 3. We pretty much all were unanimous. He is definitely one to get your points in there, just with his experience. I have Puellos. You heard my love for him. He is super fast. And a little bit of a gamble there because he can be cold, but he's hot more often than that. And again, Amari's going to win it tonight. So it's going to be everyone else for the extra prizes. They're giving out a couple of $1,000 to second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. The rest of the pilots are going for the money, and Amari is walking away with the contract tonight.
I feel good that my picks matched Ferry, because Ferry has been consistently our number 1 fan picker in Hydra. So I feel good about my decisions right now.
I'm like Joe Scully.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm like Joe Scully. He was worried about spending every last dollar given. And so I went with a little bit of what everybody was saying. I've got Amari, Chief, and Sky is my group.
That's good.
I'm just kind of putting all your guys' thoughts together. I think we've got about a minute at most to get your picks. And so if you haven't got them in yet, Joel, did you get a chance to read what the data says in your gut? Got the same as Ferry, you said?
I mean, we can't Dolma. I mean, it's tough to read this because when you change one balance, it goes the other way. But I'm not going to spoil it. I'll put the information out there afterwards. We'll see how closely it lines up.
Yeah, I might have done something different, seeing if I could see the ladder before it started, but I'm not sure. I didn't want to wait too long.
Yeah, I am assuming that Amari and Chief are going to be 1-2 in the qualifying, just because that's what they're seated at. So hopefully they end up in separate brackets. But I did not see the bracket breakdown anywhere. So that is, if they are both in the same groups, then if you picked Amari and Chief, you'll be in for a world of hurt. Probably won't get very far because those points are going to be going elsewhere.
Well, it's interesting. They did not give us the way that they were separating them. Right now on the DRL stream, it has started. I'm counting down 3, 2, 1. According to my clock, picking is now closed. So hopefully you've gotten something out of this. Oh, here we go. There's something up here.
There it is.
I'm locked in. I did the 3K. I saw 3 different entries. Was it?
All right. Yes. Amari and Chief are.
Chief and Amari separated.
Yes.
There it is.
Puellos the 2 seed. Whew.
What did they do for that? They did. What did 1, 2, 1 and 2, and 5 and 6? I can't even tell.
Wait, I think the ranking round they all fly against each other.
No, they don't. Oh yeah, on the ranking round, yes.
That was the weekly qualifier track that they've been putting 40 hours into.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So have they even named
this is the results of that.
I can see the pictures grayed out, so I'm assuming that's it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Amari. It looks like AJ.
Orange Stuff.
Who's that?
Orange Stuff and a drone and Rab all in Group 1.
Who's that third pilot in there?
That is Sky. Sky.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we got Pawelos, Chief,
Manny.
Manny, and it looks like Star. Oh, there we go. We got Amari's beautiful face on the screen now.
From Iowa.
He's a handsome fella.
Made for TV.
All right. Well, I'm glad Twitch came back. We had a good number of viewers on Twitch.
There's my boy Chief.
We futzed out.
Hmm.
There's Chief. All right. Well, the picks are in now, so we can all watch along on the DRL YouTube channel. They're streaming it to Twitter. But if you like what you see tonight, if you enjoy drone racing, the fact that drone racing is a real world sport that is continuing online in the simulators, there are simulator races happening every single day. Colby, who you've heard from here tonight, SFPV is running races every single day. For the next 2 Tuesdays, you can hear Joe Scully and Colby announcing the multi-GP. This is the Velocidrone Wildcard Series presented by MultiGP on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So you can tune in at the Velocidrone Racing League Twitch channel and check out some of the best pilots from around. This is just national?
It's
on
international.
Tuesday nights? It's international.
Yeah.
Okay. So pilots from around the world. And then this Saturday and for the next 4 Saturdays, you have the Ultimate Velocidrone Tournament Series, the VRL, Velocidrone Racing League. That is Colby's. There are 5 teams, I believe, 5 teams of pilots. They were all picked just a few weeks ago. They've been racing week after week. We've got 4 more weeks of tournament play every Saturday at, I believe it is
2 p.m. Pacific is when we start the advanced races, and then 4 p.m. Pacific is the professional racers.
Okay, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. So Saturdays and Tuesdays, if you like what you see, go to Twitch, follow along with Velocidrone Racing League on Twitch, and there's a lot more drone racing. And you can play along on the Hydra FPV app for both of those series. If you get the Hydra FPV app, you're watching the Hydra FPV channels right now. You can play along on those apps, on that app for those races, and it's a lot of fun. And we got prizes to give away as well. So, and tonight, actually, we are going to be offering another way to play along with the DRL sim tryouts. You can pick the finish order of the first group, the finish order of the second group, and then we'll release the finals group, and you can pick the finish order there. And Joel, did we decide we're going to give away a race case to the winner?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hydra FPV race case for your tiny whoops. It fits 2 tiny whoops. And if you want to play along with Hydra as well, if you got picks in for FanDuel, you can play another way on the Hydra FPV app, Android Play Store, iTunes Store, App Store for Apple. It's everywhere, and you can play along. There's Ryan Bryant, 22 from Roanoke, Virginia. This is going to be interesting. So are the picks open, Joel, on the Hydra FPV app for the groups? Or I guess we got to still confirm who's who, right?
Yeah, I want to make sure that we got those lineups set for the groups. So,
okay. Well, this was an experiment. We got everybody together. Colby was running a race just before this, so we thank you. He was making dinner. We interrupted him, so he's got to go back to making dinner. Ferry, thanks for jumping
Now
in.
I gotta watch this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, now I'm sucked in. My picks are
Another
in.
2 hours on the computer.
Online.
Let's go.
let's go.
All right. Well,
Yeah, thank you.
Joe Scully, thanks for chiming in from up there in Ontario, where you're keeping it safe, keeping it
buddy.
interesting. Welcome to FanDuel. It's a whole new era. We got FanDuel and drone racing coming together.
Gonna be good.
It's going to be good. All right. So
Right.
do we send everybody over to the DRL channels now and
I think we do.
we settle in for
All right.
a good night of drone racing? We'll see you this Saturday for Velocidrone Racing League and the following Tuesday for Velocidrone Wildcard with presented by MultiGP. Lots more drone racing if you like what you see. And check us out on the Hydra FPV app. We got all the races scheduled there. Thanks for watching tonight, everybody.
Yep.
See you guys.
See ya. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Good luck with your bets. See how it turns out.
You too.